We're so excited to have Clare Crawley with us today. Clare, thanks for being here.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Apparently, LB wants to join in on this too. So
There's so many dogs that make guest appearances on these things now that everyone's at home constantly. It's really
right.
fascinating.
I swear he was literally just sleeping for the last 17 hours. And he just got up and was like, I'm going to be part of this.
Yeah. I love that. So we always like to jump right in. And since we do work with adolescent female youth, we always love to hear about our guest's backstory. What were you like as a 12-year-old girl?
Oh man. Okay. So nobody believes this. Actually, the people who know me are like, yeah, we could see that. But I used to be the most shyest, painfully shyest person ever. And it was to the point where it was detrimental, where I would never speak up for myself and I would never have my own back. And I would never, like, it was just, I was so, I don't even know if afraid of the world was the right thing, but I just was like, I never wanted to say the wrong thing, or I was just so painfully shy. And that followed me, I would say, all through mid high school. To be honest, mid to end of high school, I was really, really, really shy.
Were you more comfortable around girls? Because I was shy and but I'd find myself with my friends, I was like a little more me. Like at a slumber party or something, like a small group, I would like be a total freak and just be a huge entertainer, comedian. But like at school, I like walked down the halls silent.
Totally. I would say around my family and I had one really good best friend that we are best friends since we were 4 years old. Oh. So I would say around her and my family, absolutely, I was like the goofball of everybody and the most outgoing. But when it came to other people I didn't know, being in the public, being in school, oh, it was bad. It was bad to the point where I ran into somebody from grade school that I went kindergarten through 8th grade with. So a few years. And he was working at the local Baskin Robbins. This was when I was like 25. And I was like, hi, how's it going? And he's like, who are you? In my head, I'm like, I was that invisible, I felt like, where he didn't even know it was a small class. So I just was a wallflower and kind of would blend into the background, and I loved it.
You loved it. I love that.
Yeah.
You didn't find it like lonely or anything like that? You just kind of were like easy breezy?
I wouldn't say easy breezy. I would probably say quite the opposite. I was probably more anxiety riddled.
Okay.
And so because of that, I was overthinking everything and didn't want to say the wrong thing, I just was like, I'm just not going to say anything. And so it was not easy breezy. It was very anxiety driven for sure.
Were you like that person? Because this is what I did, like that if you were doing a read aloud in school, that you'd like count how many people were in front of you and then count the line and read it 4 times to understand if you could read that English line. Like you kind of like forget everything when you have all that public speaking anxiety.
That's so funny you say that. I forgot about that until you say that now. Yeah,
really?
I really was that person who would count it and be like, okay, there's her line, there's her line. That's what I'm going to be saying, and just repeat it. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I was similar to you. I had major social anxiety. I always wanted to like say the right thing or please people. And it was basically like Mary Catherine Gallagher. But it changes. So what changed in high school or in your early 20s to be more confident and be just more yourself?
It started out as, I would say, faking it till you make it, because I had one girl or a couple girls in high school comment to me, because I always, like I said, kept to myself. I had my one best friend, was totally happy. But as I got in high school, I joined like volleyball. I was in sports, and I had a couple of the girls say to me, oh God, once you get to know you, you're super cool. Mm-hmm. But before I knew you, and this was like multiple people had said this, before I knew you, I thought you were so stuck up, and I thought you thought you were better than everybody. And I was like, no, that's the complete opposite. But if anything, I was painfully shy. And I think to the public or to other people, keeping to myself and not, just like minding my own business, eating lunch in the library, that's how they interpreted that. So in high school, I was I thought, you know what, I'm going to go above and beyond to put myself in the uncomfortable, to smile, to say hi to people, to talk to people, because the last thing I want people to do is in high school to think I'm a certain way that I'm not. And it was almost to just be like, make friends and to talk to people, because it's still hard to do that sometimes, to put myself out there and to be like the one to say hi or to make the move, and even with friendships and
It's
stuff.
kind of interesting, and it's true. Like if you don't tell people who you are and like show them with a smile, then
Yeah.
they will jump to conclusions. So I think that kind of is a good tip for people. Like if you are feeling like a loner or shy or just, totally confused, like maybe just like start saying hi to people.
That's exactly what it was. Or even if you can't say hi to people, smile.
Yeah.
Just smile. And I think that goes a long way, because I would keep my head down out of shyness. I would not smile because I was shy. But when you start to lift your head up, hold your shoulders back, smile, it does two things. I think it presents well, and like people go, oh, she's, she's friendly, but
Yeah, she's
also it does
open.
something for in you as well, to like, when you're holding your shoulders back, when you're smiling. I think there's a lot of studies that are like, even when you're having a crappy day and you smile, and even if you force yourself to smile just for a little bit, it kind of changes your mood and puts you in a better mindset.
Yeah, that body like posture is so huge. You actually like that's called power posing. Like I think a lot of people have heard that through like TED Talks and stuff. But you actually get like a hit of testosterone when you kind of like peacock and become bigger. And
Yeah.
so like testosterone therefore means confidence. And like that's the difference between men and women sometimes is like we don't give ourselves like all those opportunities to get like those hormones that we need to feel really secure and strong
Yeah.
in our bodies.
Yeah. And it definitely, once too, a big play into it was working on my self-confidence. I think the shyness, there was a lot of other things that were going into the shyness, that, lack of self-worth, and I didn't believe in myself. So working on those things and working to really improve those things helped tremendously, and kind of having the confidence of whether or not people think I'm stuck up or not stuck up, like I know who I am on the inside. That's what I want to project, not to make them feel better or anything, but that's what I want to project, because that's how I feel on the inside.
Yeah.
So more for myself too.
Yeah. I love that you shared that, because I feel like so many men and women go through that. Like I had the exact same thing in high school. I remember one guy was always calling me a brat. And I was like, I was just shy. Like I would like, like I was well dressed, but I didn't talk. So like
Yeah.
if they invited me to do something, I would be like, oh, I'd like internally freak out. And then one time this guy was like, hey, come over here, Sonia. And I didn't. And he was like, you're so stuck up. And he like yelled at me down the hallway. And I was like, I didn't have the tools then to know, like, they're just like reacting to me not communicating. But I was so shy, I didn't even know how to, you
Uh,
know?
it's so true. And when you're teenagers, they're hard. It's You're learning enough about yourself, let alone how to interact with other people and how other people perceive you or you perceive them. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle sometimes.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, did you ever have like big picture ideas? Like what did Clare Crawley want to be? Like what were your inner dialogue since you were quiet? Like what was going on in your head?
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Yeah.
And that's where I connected. That's where I felt so much love in my heart, was when I connected with animals. And so all growing up, I always wanted to be a veterinarian. And to the point where when I became, I would say, I think 18 or 19, I became a vet tech prior to school, because I was like, I'm going to invest all that money. I want to see what I'm getting into and see what the behind the scenes are and see if I actually really do love it. And I was that for about 4 years of vet tech.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah. And I loved it deeply, but I realized for me, it desensitized me and my love for animals, if that makes sense. I was constantly around, you're not around the puppies and the kittens and the cute, happy animals. You're around the really sick ones, the dying ones, the old ones. And
Yeah.
it's really taxing when somebody is, I don't know, it takes this really special type of person to detach from that. But I lost my sensitivity and my deep love for animals, and almost just to self-preservation, I guess. And I
Right.
thought, you know what, I'd rather love animals as much as I do and work with humans rather than, because animals, I hated that I lost that like passion and love for animals so much. So
Yeah, I tried working at a vet office like right after college because I felt the same way. I love animals. This is a great idea. And
uh,
I couldn't do it. I couldn't even take a cat and put it in a cage. Like I just was like, no, someone else do that. And they're like, that's your job to intake the animal. I'm like, I can't. I
do
can't.
it.
I can't do it.
Next.
Yeah, I was there for about 2 weeks, and then they wanted me to file things. I was like, this is just not my jam, man.
Girl, moving on.
Moving on.
Oh man, yeah, I wanted to be a vet so bad, so I had to rethink my whole childhood of like, what do I want to do?
Yeah, and then how did you move like down your journey to like be more creative? And then
So
also,
I've always,
and then also put
yeah,
yourself on television. Like that takes a lot of
Yeah.
confidence too.
yeah, I I moved down my line of like jobs and things I wanted to do for work. I knew everybody's got their own path, and for me, school was really, really challenging. And being in with social anxiety and being in college and doing, I mean, I tried it. I went to college and I was doing good in my classes and stuff, but I just felt like, what am I doing? I need to find my passion. And I had my dad tell me one time, he said, because I was struggling with what do I do? What do I want to do? And that in between phase of what's going to make me happy? And he just said, he was like, he used to call me Sugar. And he was like, Sugar, you could literally be a garbage man. And as long as you love it and you're happy doing that, I would be happy for you. Mm-hmm. And so I went on this quest to find what genuinely makes me happy and what I love doing, what I can do every day, all day. And one thing I love doing is talking to people and making people feel good. And I thought becoming working in like the spa industry, you get that connection with people and you also can help them, make them feel better. And I think there's a lot to be said for that in working in a salon. I think a lot of people think it's a superficial thing and you're just playing with hair all day, but the conversations I've had with clients, with my teenager clients, and I was doing hair for 15 years, so I'm still doing hair. So it's like, I've had some since they were 15, 16 years old. And now, then they were going through their relationship stuff and they would always talk to me about that. And then they would get engaged and then they'd find their person. And pretty soon, before you know it, one day they would come in and be like, I'm pregnant. So it's more connection, and I love that.
Yeah. It's true though, like you really do open up to your hairdresser. It's like free therapy. It's not free because you're paying for the hair, but like the thing is like that person doesn't know any of the people you're talking about, so you can be so honest.
Exactly. It's definitely a rewarding, draining, stressful, but exciting career. And I thought, I love being creative. I love being my own boss. I love being able to work 20 hours if I want to, or work 2 hours if I want to. And if I want to take off a week at a time, I can take off a week at a time. And I don't know, it's just so many options of being self-employed. So
yeah, and that feeling you give to people, like when you walk out of the salon, you feel on fire.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
For sure. And so like it is cool to like let people be heard in the seat and then like make them actually feel physically like sexy or whatever they're looking for,
Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many clients have come in where they sit there, body postures, they're struggling. And I've had people where they're depressed and they'll sit in there, and it was the first time I washed my hair in a week or 2 weeks, and they'll sit there and they'll just get taken care of, and somebody's listening to them, in the power of the closeness. I think when you're touching them and you're touching their hair and you're touching their shoulder and you're sitting right there with them and they get all the attention, there's a lot. I think it goes a long way for people.
Is that one of your love languages, like acts of service? Because you want to help animals, you want to help people.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that's definitely how I show love, for sure. And to me, yeah, I would say that's the dominant one for sure.
Yeah. How do you like to receive love?
I was talking about this the other day. Is it possible to be all the above? Like to receive it all the above? Because I love being told and talked to and saying like, that really made my day, Claire, or I love that you're here with me, or I mean, who doesn't love to hear that kind of stuff? And it really, or I appreciate you, that, you know.
Yeah. They say that women fall in love between the ears. So words of affirmation, it makes sense.
Words of affirmation is huge. I also put a lot of weight on physical touch.
Yeah.
I was never a huggy person ever.
Really?
Yes, it was always, you know, like I did the Irish exit all the time. When at the end of, you know, hanging out with my friends or being with even family, I would be the one that I still Irish exit all the time. And I'll just be like, the people that know me, I'm like, just, you know, I'm leaving in 10 minutes, but I just want to say bye now. Don't, you know, like, I'm out of here.
Well, it's so weird because sometimes people make you hug like 10 people or like, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. Like, it's just like, yo, hi.
I just awkward. Yeah, and I remember one time I was telling one of my clients, we were talking about New Year's resolutions, and I told her, I was like, my New Year's resolution this year is to hug people more. Because sometimes there's people, you don't know what they're going through and you don't know how their day was. And you're the only hug and the only touch they've had, maybe all day, maybe all week, maybe all month. And when you're deprived of that, or you get that hug, it can just mean everything. And so she looked at me and she was like, Claire, I do not want to do this. I'm not a huggy person. Because I told her, I was like, after I do your hair, I'm going to hug you. Is that okay? And she was like, I don't want to do this. I'm just not a huggy person. And I think because she was really overweight and uncomfortable and just wasn't comfortable in her body. And I don't care. She to this day is my favorite client in the entire world. And so I was like, let's both awkwardly hug. And so it got to the point where like a year later, she was like, I was leaving and I was in a hurry and I was like, okay, bye, I'll see you later. And she was like, where's my hug? So we both grew to like love hugging people. So yeah, physical touch is important.
Well, how did you deal with that? Like on that show that you were on for years, like everyone touches everybody.
Yeah. Well, I did that was my New Year's resolution. That was my New Year's resolution probably 8-9 years ago. And so I, over the year, made myself offer hugs and to make sure I hugged people that I loved and went out of my way to hug people and give them good long hugs. And it made a difference for me. And I think if it made a difference for me, I know it made a difference for them. And so I love hugging people now, and I love physical touch and just touching, hugging people, you know, makes a difference.
I mean, I think that's one of the best human connections you can have is someone that you like, it's reciprocated, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So besides like your love language, what does love mean to you?
Love to me is seeing every part of somebody, the good and the bad. And I think especially the hard things about people and accepting them for who they are and for being human. I think that's what love is to me. And it's not the easy and the fun and the exciting and the pretty and the easy times. It's when you are drenched in tears and struggling and going through hard things, and the person shows up for you or you show up for that person. And when it's not convenient, that to me is love.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so special. I mean, when you were on The Bachelorette, like I felt like you were like workshopping the guys to see if they would give you that. You know what I mean? You're like, this is what love means to me. You didn't say that, but like your actions on the show were like, show up, show me real things about you. What kind of man are you? How are you going to fit into my life? Because this is what I'm looking for. And like, how did you find that confidence to be so strong?
Yeah.
I found that confidence to be so strong because I know what it feels like to have the opposite. I know what it feels like to have somebody just see the shell and have somebody think, oh, sparkly dresses and your hair is done. And while all those things are fun and great and the dates are magnificent and beautiful, it's easy to get swept up in that. And I wanted a man that when it is hard, when there is no cameras or lights or easy times, I want somebody to still choose me.
Mm.
And I want to still choose that person. And so this, I knew being on the show was not an opportunity just to be on TV. If it never aired, I always tell people I would probably prefer it that way, but I could care less. It wasn't about the fame. It's not about being on TV or the amount of followers. I could genuinely care less. It's about the opportunity to meet 30-something men who could possibly be my person. And that to me was worth it. So even if other people don't like the opportunity, the date, or if it's boring, or the love language date, or screaming to the mountains, that's the type of stuff that I placed value on, to see what type of person I was looking for. Yeah. And I really wanted to use the opportunity to find the right person.
I mean, I kind of think you changed that show entirely. Like your season, like real people showed up. You were real, so then it made people step up into a totally different version. And especially during COVID, it was nice to see like real people doing real things that you needed.
Yeah.
It mattered to me too, because it wasn't just like sign up for the show and come on and it's easy. It was, we all had to wait 6 months and to not know, are we going on? Are we not going to do this? Can we do this? And to go through COVID nose swabs every 72 hours. And it wasn't a comfortable thing to do, and have to be in quarantine and waiting. It was a big obstacles to go through. So I thought, you know what, if they're going to go through all that, they definitely want to be here. Yeah. So it eliminated, I don't know if it was going to say the week, but it eliminated a lot of guys who were just there for the show.
Yeah. When you were a little girl, did you like picture yourself growing up and like being married and having a family, or was that something that like as you got a little older, you were like, I value that? Or were you like, I need a wedding, I need this, and like putting toilet paper bride stuff on as a kid? Like, I never thought about weddings as a kid. Did you?
I never thought about weddings as a kid. I still do not think about weddings. I think about running away to a beach and being me and my husband and having the time of our lives, maybe recording it, and then coming back and celebrating with our friends and family. I just cringe at the thought of having to pick out tablecloths or spend X amount of thousands of dollars on flowers that they're going to throw away the next day. It just cringes me. I'd rather put a down payment on a house or go on a month-long vacation or whatever. So weddings were never the thing. It was always family and husband and a family unit. Because I grew up with 5 older sisters. So I had a big family, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's nice to have love around in all shapes and forms, you know, and like siblings, like if you know how to communicate and get along, are your best friends, just like us.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true.
I have a question about finding the right partner, and it might help me, it might help girls listening, women listening, but I feel like today with phones and everything, like we're all like a fantasy version of ourselves. Because you put out what you want to put out, our dating apps or Instagram or whatever. And I feel like how you said, like, love is when people show up for you, like in the bad moments, and you're vulnerable and they allow you to see everything. But what are some things that you look for in a relationship at the beginning? Like how they show up for you, so you can be like, oh, they're not just with me because I'm beautiful, or they're not just with me because I have money, or anything like that.
Or like, what's a red flag?
Yeah, I love to put it all out there, I guess, in a sense of when I first meet somebody, and when I was back in the dating world, I would show up with my hair in a top knot bun or minimal makeup or no makeup, and do something on a date that I genuinely loved doing. I would be most authentically me on the first date, even if it, like I said, and as casual and as low key as it is, because I used to kind of go on those dates and, I want to do my hair and I want to do this, and you want to look good and feel good for yourself. But at the same token, I don't want them to think that's who I am all the time.
Yeah.
Or that's what they're going to get all the time, because it's not like that all the time.
It's not like that.
Teddy has a thing called Burger King hair.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Burger King man, like the Renaissance man.
Yes.
She wakes up and looks like him. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yes, rock the Burger King hair. Like,
oh, no, Claire, I will never get a second date if I rock Burger King hair.
You know what then? right.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think if I was like at the beach or like in Hawaii, it'd be okay to like in like that. But if I was like in Hollywood.
But if somebody liked you for the Burger King hair and then you rolled out looking like this, they'd be like, bonus!
Yeah. True. I love that. I like show up.
Yeah, my biggest thing I would say, show up authentically and as close to yourself, and do things on dates that you love, that resemble you. I always hated going to fancy dinners on first dates because I thought, it's kind of uncomfortable and stuffy, and most likely you're dressed up, and that's just not me at all. So when I was dating, I started eliminating that as a date option because that was just it's not my thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to think I love that, because I would choose making dinner at home and barbecuing and just hanging out at home or takeout any day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like though when someone wants to like hike or do something where they don't show me that they could take care of me monetarily. Is that bad, do you think? Like,
You don't like it?
No. I like want them to like at least show up with like a coffee or a kombucha and be like, here's a gift. I need a gift. I guess that's my love language.
There's your love language right there. Yeah, that I cared enough to get something that you like. Yeah, that's respectable for sure. And that they care enough to care.
Yeah.
That is definitely
I feel like a lot of times now, because Teddy and I are both in our 30s, like we go on dates and we want to like not fix them, but we look at like, oh, he has this issue or he has this issue, instead of looking for strengths. And I'm like, am I self-sabotaging, or, like I have to really think about dating and being really conscious of like my thoughts on dates.
It's hard not to.
Like you said, like nobody's perfect. I'm not going to find the perfect person. Nobody's
perfect. And I there's a thing my friends and I have. I used to not be able to stand when a guy looked stop me if this makes sense. But if a guy looked like Placky, like he just had placky teeth, he could be
like the white cloudy teeth too, like when it's like discolored.
Ew, Clare.
Hell no.
No. Have you ever met a guy where you look like,
that's valid?
You're like, he just looks placky. He looks like he just has placky teeth. Even if he does or does not, he just looks like he has placky teeth. Yeah. That's a hard pass on my behalf. Like, no. So my friends were like, was he placky? I mean, how was he placky? And I'd be like, girl, he was definitely placky. But
you're like, nice to meet you, Plaque. Like you can only look at his teeth.
I'd be like, it would never, to be honest, if a guy looked like he had placky teeth to me, even if they were not placky, it's a wrap. I would check.
Does that mean like hygiene in general?
I don't even know. It was just a thing.
Plaque.
Yeah, you can tell if you look at a guy or you look at somebody to me, you can tell if they just care.
Yeah.
Even if they're in a t-shirt and jeans, you can tell if they care enough to smell like laundry detergent or clean soap. That even is okay. But I don't know. I'm not into grungy guys personally.
No. I like that that's your advice. Like, look for their plaque, and if they have it, run.
Look at their plaque. So I'm just saying, I feel where you're going with that. But there was a guy I know, and he looks placky, but he genuinely is one of the most amazing guys I know. Aww. And I could not look. It was hard for me to go like, but if somebody isn't worried about, I don't know, I'm not worried about Placky because he's not even a Placky guy.
There were probably Placky people who came out of the limo on the show, and you're like, oh no, Placky.
For sure, Placky.
Did you think Placky? But did you think he's Placky?
There was a guy who I for sure thought was Placky. I can't tell you if he was or not. No. I looked at him and I was like,
Plaque.
For sure, Placky.
Well, of course, like if you're on a date and you might end up kissing them, like oral hygiene's a thing, guys. Like get it together.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's hard because, they're like, why did you send that guy home? And it's like,
Plaque.
Yes, Plaque.
You can't say that, right?
I think I'm gonna rewatch this whole season and
We're
just
gonna
like
find him.
zoom in on things.
And then we're gonna make a whole episode about getting your teeth cleaned every 6
Getting
months.
your
How
teeth
important it is.
Yeah, it's definitely important. Definitely important. But it's the vibe of plackiness. It's not even if they do have placky teeth or not. There's a vibe of plackiness.
Yeah, self-care.
Self-care.
So like
sure.
that's perfect. I was gonna ask you, like on a bad day, how do you self-care and be gentle with yourself?
On a bad day, I would say, you know what? You want to know? Can I tell you something?
You can. You're gonna probably tell like thousands of people at the same time. Don't forget.
I have been wanting to put this into action for other people. I have about 3 people that are doing this because this is something I go through days of severe anxiety. I go through days of depression that I struggle with. It's something that can be underlying if everything just feels really, really heavy to me and there's a lot going on. I'm super stressed. I'm very easily prone to feeling depressed. And I hate feeling that way. Nobody likes obviously feeling that way. But I thought, what can I do to help that? And what can I do on these days? Because there have been months at a time, even recently, last year, where I was going through things where brushing my teeth wasn't even a thing. Like it was, speaking of placky, but it was hard to even get up and do that.
Yeah.
So I have this thing and I'm so curious. I want your girls or your listeners to do this. If they're struggling with this kind of thing, do this, because the people that I have talked to about this, it's helped me tremendously. And I hope like it's helped the people, my friends, one of my sisters that I've talked to do this. But I make a list when I'm not struggling. On my days that I feel good, I make a list, and I made a list of 10 things in the morning that are easy things that I could do that help me feel better. Because I know when we get started on our day, that can set the tone for the entire day, right? So I made a list on a day that I was feeling really good of easy things that I can do, 10 easy things. And I had to write them down. So easy things like drink a full glass of water, take a morning bath, which I love doing, take the dogs on a walk, a 5-minute walk around the block. One thing I love doing is jumping on the trampoline. So easy, really 2-second easy things. But I made a list of 10 things, and I thought, when I'm struggling, when I'm having anxiety or having a really crappy day and I wake up feeling like that, or I fall asleep feeling like that, I'm going to pick 3 things off that list of 10. And it doesn't matter which 3 things I do. And every day it could be a different 3 things, but 3 things that take seconds to do or just minutes to do. I do those 3 things. And I've recognized and realized that if I do those 3 things, even if it's take a drink of water, jump on my trampoline for a minute, and take the dog around the block.
Are you talking about a little trampoline, or like you have a backyard with a huge kid trampoline?
No. How cool would that be? No, it's a little trampoline. It's a little trampoline.
I was like, Claire, I want to be your neighbor and come jump on the trampoline.
But once I recognized on a regular basis, once I started doing just those 3 little things, and even if I did those 3 little things and did nothing for the rest of the day or nothing beneficial or got back into bed, odds are I never get back into bed once I do those 3 things. And so it instantly like makes you feel like accomplished, and it makes you feel like you're doing something for yourself and for just self-nurture, I guess. Those things, even a glass of water is nurturing yourself and something.
We talk to the girls about this, but we use it with happiness. So whenever we say, like, if you're feeling sad or lonely, go to your happiness list, and it's, and then you have to figure out, how can I feel this happy again? So maybe it's like cooking a meal with a parent, or we created a Girl Powerful playlist. So we're like, put on our playlist and like get moving.
Yes.
So it is so important. Like, you have to be in charge or find ways to, really manage your own mental health by having these resources right there. And they're so simple.
And it's like a plan, like you don't have to get all more anxious because you don't have a plan. So like having a morning ritual like that sets you up for success in so many different ways. Did you always feel like anxious and depressed, or was that like more of an adult feeling? Or like, I never really used to be able to label it until like the last couple of years where mental health, like there's less of a stigma about it. Everyone's being honest and being like, yo, I got some things I got to work on. Like, what does
Yeah.
it look like for you, like becoming aware of it?
I have always had it my entire life. I remember when I was in, this is so bad. My sisters always make fun of me for this. I would be in kindergarten and my family lived maybe 5 blocks from school. And this would never pertain to current day because this is not a thing, but I would get so anxious in class that I would literally leave class and run home. And I would just, my mom would get home from like the grocery store and she'd be like, what are you doing here again? So probably like 3 days a week, I would run home from school just midday, just, can I go to the bathroom and just run home?
Oh my
So,
gosh,
so
Claire.
nervous.
Oh,
So-
Claire.
Oh, it was brutal. It was so brutal. But so I've always had the underlying thing of it. I never could put a label on it, like you said, I guess. But I think, and then when I started recognizing what it was in maybe my early 20s and knew that it was just a thing that I would go through, especially in times of high stress, I hated it. I struggled with it. I would get mad at myself because I was feeling it, going through it, get angry. Why can't I just be cool and easygoing? And I really struggled a lot with it. And the more that I was embarrassed and the more that I hid it and tried to act like everything was cool, the worse it got. And the main thing that started dissipating it for me was admitting it, talking about it. And just, I noticed that once I started talking about it, and I would just say it even if it was in not a chill way, but when I would say, hey guys, I know we're out right now, we're out at dinner, I have total anxiety for some reason, I'm just going to step out and get some fresh air. They'd be like, oh, okay, like we got you. And people started, when I owned my truth, people started rising to the occasion, saying, gosh, I get that too. I know exactly what you're going through and relating to each other, but also having compassion for like, hey, is this going to make you uncomfortable? Or, hey, do we need to sit outside on the patio at dinner so you can have fresh air? And then it started helping me and making things a lot better for me, and dissipating a lot.
I love that. Honesty with pretty much every aspect of everyone's life is just the best policy, right?
Yeah, because you never know who can sit there and you can connect with and them go, I went through that too, or I feel those feelings too, and you're not alone on it.
No, you're not alone, for
Mhm.
sure. So Claire, to wrap this,
No, I have one more. I want to know.
Sonia wants to know.
Because I think you're so strong with your boundaries and you really showcase that on the show. So I was wondering, how do you like put up your boundaries and not let people steal your joy or not let media outlets, take away from your personal life because they're always like wanting.
Mhm.
How do you like kind of remove yourself from all that?
I would say knowing my self-worth, believing in myself, knowing what kind of person I am, and really putting a lot of energy into that. And I think I have made, since I was younger, I've been to the point of feeling worthless. I've been to the point of feeling just not worthy of a lot of things. And I know what it feels like to feel the lowest of lows. And I think when I started doing all the work and working on myself, creating self-love and really building a foundation of believing in myself and knowing my worth, and speaking my truth, the biggest thing to me, that's what set my boundaries. And I think there was a point where I set too rigid of boundaries, and that wasn't healthy either, because I could see it where it comes off very like, no, I'm not doing that. And it came from knowing the opposite side of it. So I think I got very rigid with, you cannot mess with me. But I think there's a point with that as well, that it's almost your walls are up and you can't penetrate past the walls because you can't mess with me.
Yeah.
And this symbol of like, I thought strength and empowerment, but it was really being very rigid. And so I've learned to find the boundary of almost like bowing and flexing with boundaries. Because I do know what my boundaries are, but there's also sometimes where it's like, I'm going to flex a little on this because I know I can be pretty rigid. And learning that was just tremendous for me because I didn't have that growing up. I never spoke up for myself. I never, I guess, defended myself or set boundaries with relationships, with guys, with friends, and creating a sense of self-worth was the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah. I think that self-awareness that you're talking about is really important for a lot of people. And the
Yeah.
fact that you knew you were like a little too soft because you just didn't have that strong voice.
Yeah.
And the pendulum swung way too far over here that you're like, hey, this isn't even the real me anymore. I'm
Yeah.
saying no to opportunities. I'm saying no to myself by
Yeah.
not letting people in. And
Yeah.
then find like the neutral in the middle. And that's where people should try and like try to live. And I know they say like there's no such thing as a balanced life, but it's like, but maybe you could strive, you could strive to live in that balanced, happy place.
Yeah, I think it's a huge place to be because in that fine balance is where you find vulnerability.
Mm,
It's not being too soft and let people walk all over you, and it's not being too rigid where you don't let people in.
mm,
And I think when you're too rigid, it creates those hard boundaries of, yeah, you can't mess with me, but you're also not going to get the best of me. And when you have that middle fine line of vulnerability, it's saying, you can't mess with me and I'm strong enough and I know my boundaries of this, but I'm going to flex a little and let you in because I know even if I open up, even if I let you in and you do me dirty or you do me wrong or I get hurt, I know I'm strong enough to overcome it.
mm.
And that's where the self-worth comes in is I'm okay with it going to the extreme of like, you can't mess with me, but now it's like, even if you try, I know where I stand and I know how I feel about myself. So even if when you ask about like the media and social media and people getting hard and awful and kind of like the tough things that come along with being in the public eye, it got to me. I mean, I'm human, but
Right.
there's also that I know who I am. I know my truth. I know that I let the right people in, and those I care deeply about what they think and how they feel, and it does affect me. So I am a very sensitive person by nature, but I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's okay to be sensitive and soft. And
100%. Do you think, like, since you have been in the public eye for years now,
mm,
what a percentage, like, would you say of like media coverage is even true?
a minimal, to be honest.
Like 10%?
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
10%. There's absolutely 10%, and it's magnified by people's. I think nowadays I'm recognizing that people pick sides in the media.
Mhm.
Either you're this awful person and they absolutely hate you, and so they're picking the worst pictures and they're catching you at these moments, or you're beloved and you can do nothing wrong. And people pick, whether or not whatever side people pick, like people pick sides, especially within, I think, the Bachelor franchise. For some reason, if they want to paint a picture of you one way to be a certain person, there's going to be people that are just driving that home and thinking that you're that person, and that's their perception of you. But there's also 90% more of things that is the real you, that's the human you, that is, people don't see and people don't get the chance to see. So
Yeah.
that's why I love, and I'm happy to be doing this with you guys, because these are the things I love, connecting with young girls and young women and young people that look for the humanness in people and not just this portrayal of what people think you are and who they think you are in the media or on TV, because that's not reality. As weird as that sounds, like reality TV is not reality.
Right.
It's not the whole picture of who a person is. It's a portion, and it's bits and pieces of it, but it's not all encompassing of who a person is. So just as much as you can sit there and see that, Claire's this way in a certain way, and she's, this one person in 3 minutes of a 3-day filming schedule, I'm also the person that on any given day, you'll catch me down at the nursing home sitting with my mom feeding her.
Yeah.
So
Do you like that you have like that control a little bit with social media to put out like on your stories, like the true Claire?
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing for years. And that's why I know it's easy to be like an influencer and make some really amazing good money on social media.
Yeah.
I more pride myself on making my page, even if I get to do stuff like that and have those opportunities, making my social media a page of who I am as a person. And I've always done that. And it's not, I don't know. I love being able to just be like, this is who I am. And to be honest, here's the truth. I've been in plenty of relationships throughout the years, even since I've been on television, that I have not put on social media, that it's not public, that nobody even knows the relationships I was in. And not for a fact of like hiding them, but I want my social media to be, whether or not I'm in a relationship, whether or not I'm engaged, whether or not I'm on TV or not, this is the Claire I am. And this is the life I choose to live. So other girls, other people who look at it can go, oh yeah, like she's doing stuff with herself. She's doing stuff with her life. Because the one thing that I can't stand that just irks me is when people have found out that I'm in a relationship, or when I got engaged to Dale. You're happy, you're glowing, you look amazing, like you're just glowing. And there were days that even though I was in a relationship and very happy in my relationship at the time, I was struggling like with other things going on in my life, and I could not have been more filled with anxiety and depression at that time. It had nothing to do with my relationship, but just stuff that I was going through. So I was like, I'm glowing, and because you think I'm in a relationship equates happiness.
That's my worth, is my partner.
The value.
That's my worth. My worth is not my partner. And in the same way, yeah, when I'm not in a relationship, or people will say like, I can't wait for you to find happiness. I always want to.
Who said I wasn't happy? Who said I wasn't happy?
Right.
And honestly, in my past, some of the happiest times I've ever had is when I get out of an unhealthy relationship and I'm independent and I'm by myself and riding solo. Like those are my happiest times. So I want my social media to reflect who I am as a person, whether or not I'm in a relationship. It's my happiness is not contingent upon any man or any relationship. And I want other girls and other people to feel the same way. Like it doesn't matter.
How beautiful was that when you did the Instagram live with Teddy, and our inbox was like flooded with all these I am statements from women like across the country. And it was because of you that women, took a few minutes out of their day to like think about what they love about themselves. We were like scrolling so happy. We're like, this is what matters in the world. Helping people.
That made me so happy. Yeah, that made me so happy. And it filled up my inbox too of really positive, good, happy things. And I think it's easy for being off the show. People will want to know gossip and want to know juicy details, whether they care or not, or whether they're just trying to find out juicy details. When people were filling up my inbox with that and their I am, and this is what makes me happy, like that made me so happy. And that really changed the narrative of, me going on social media instead of being like cringy of like, what are people saying about this? It's more of like, I love looking forward to this. So it shifted the narrative, I think. Huge.
Also, like spending so many years in and out of like the show, it kind of does breed a toxic like idea that you are valued only if you look like this, like no one ever like wearing a size pant over a 6 probably has ever even been on that show. Like a lot of people and like teenagers watch it. Like our girls watch that show. And I just hate it. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I get Cinderella. I get that stuff. But it's like, that's why we're really drawn to you, is because you went a little deeper, and they probably pushed back because they're like, no, let's just kiss. Let's just bikini party. But you were like, no, I'm an adult. I'm gonna find someone here.
Yeah, I wanted to get what I could out of it for sure. I that was probably the most frustrating thing for me as well, going through the experience, and I'm very grateful for it. But it was the narrative that they want to do and the narrative that they want to show for things, which is, it's okay because I know the truth. But that was something that was extremely important to me, was being a flawed human being and people seeing the realness of people, whether you're a size 6, whether you're a size 14, whether you wear makeup or don't wear makeup, or whoever you are so worthy of great love. And like I said, because I've been through so many years of feeling zero self-worth And there was a lot of things, we can probably talk about it another time, but because I know I can tend to talk a long time, but I talk so much, but this is stuff that's important to me. But there's things in my life that got me to a place to be on the show, to be chosen as the Bachelorette. And the reason I don't think I was even an option to producers to be the Bachelorette ever. I think they actually went in casting me for Bachelor in Paradise. Hey, Claire, you're single. Do you want to do it? And I was like, definitely not. But I don't know. There was things that I had talked to them about that I was like, I've never talked about this in my life. And until I started speaking up about it and showing the flaws and the things I've been through in my life, the things that make me me, and who have kind of shaped who I am as a woman, the hard things, the things that people go through all the time. Relationship abuse. I went through sexual abuse as a child and never talked about that. I've never spoken about that, but I went in talking to producers about like, I have finally found my worth, my value, and love myself enough to say, I know how much I love myself for every flawed, imperfect part of myself. I'm ready to share that with somebody and to not just be seen as somebody who is, standing out there with a sparkly dress. That's not beautiful to me. I don't want a man who thinks that that's cool. I want a man who sees all the things about me or things I've been through and look at that as a strength and own the stuff that I've been through as not shame, but as my power.
Well, yeah. And you using your voice to be vulnerable and brave. I always think anyone sharing their truth is just beyond brave. It's hard to say I was sexually abused. Like that doesn't, it's really hard. It's really hard. So thanks for sharing that. And I mean, it's common. That's the sad thing. And a lot of the girls we work with, we know things are going on behind the scenes, and your hands are kind of tied. They're not your kid. Like, what do it's hard. Obviously you're a mandated reporter and you can try to help, but it's difficult.
Yeah. Like spreading awareness and letting people hear your story is the most powerful thing, because like you said, like throughout this whole episode, there's so many things that women can resonate and be like, oh my gosh, me too. Yeah. And that's the most powerful thing. And that will help them, not feel alone, and then hopefully help them start their healing process and kickstart their own self-love journey.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's important to me. And that's why I wanted to go on the show and speak up for the little Clares of the world, like we were talking about, Teddy, and like speak up for the little Clares of the world that felt worthless, that felt shame, that hide things, that bury things deep inside themselves that they feel like is a flaw, that somebody's not going to love that about them, or that it's a struggle of theirs. But recognizing that it's actually your superpower to be a survivor, even if you are just here on earth another day, like you're a survivor of that and you're getting through every day with that. And going through abuse, whatever kind of abuse it is, like to be able to go on with your days and be a survivor, like I said, that's beautiful. And it's a superpower for sure. Because that stuff doesn't leave you. That stuff is always there. And I think embracing yourself as not a victim, but as a survivor, it changes the narrative and starts to kind of build your self-worth. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. If someone is, being abused, like, do you have any advice for how they could share that with someone they trust? Like, sometimes verbally saying it probably would be really painful and take like years to do. Do you think like leaving a note somewhere? Like, do you have any advice for anyone, any age, any gender?
Yeah.
Being hurt right now.
I think one of the worst things is burying it deep inside and not sharing with somebody. So whether it's a sister, whether it's a good friend, whether it's a teacher, somebody that you can really trust, even just owning that truth of it and opening up. Because like you said earlier, unfortunately, it's happened to more people than it hasn't happened to. And there's so many people that don't speak up about it. And I thought forever as a child, that's not going to affect me. And as a teenager, as an adult, that's not going to affect me. That was part of my childhood, or I'm going to be stronger. I'm just going to go on. What can I do about it? It's just a thing. But when I started talking about it, and like I said, simply viewing it not as a victim of it, but as this is something that I went through and I survived this.
Mhm.
And I think choosing to say, I refuse to let that person or that situation get the best of me. Like, I want better for myself. I'm not going to let, maybe I just have, control things in my head, but I don't want them to win. I don't want them to feel like they got the best of me,
Right.
because that's something that did happen to me that I didn't have control over, but I have control over who I am now. And I'm not going to let that win. And I want better for myself.
Yeah, you
And so,
deserve better. You deserve better. Everyone deserves the best of the best.
yeah.
Everybody.
So sharing with like a therapist, or sharing with a teacher or a school counselor, or even a friend, that more people would be surprised, I think, when the person that they're talking to says, I understand, or, I went through that same thing, and building yourself up and really just focusing on healing. That's huge, because people, when you don't do the work, even if it's something that you don't think is going to affect your life, or you're like, oh, it's just something that happened, it does affect your life. It affects your relationships in the long term, when you're, in your 20s and 30s.
It shows up in random places and manifests in like anger or anxiety, or you don't want to be touched anymore. All these things that just are natural because you had a trauma and you have a wound, and you need to find a way to heal yourself, because we all have that power. We have that power.
Yeah, and I feel like, Claire, you're the best role model for, you just said, for doing the work.
The work.
So once you get to a point where you can recognize it, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And then you can, like, we love to show girls, like women who are successful and thriving, and don't let their childhood or like past traumas like stand in the way of thriving. So thank you for being here with us. And our last question is, what makes you feel the most alive?
Ooh, what makes me feel most alive is just being me and doing things that I love. I would say that is essentially being out in nature and being no makeup, hair in like a ponytail or hat, and comfortable clothes, and just being out and seeing, just soaking it up. Being barefoot, I think, makes me feel so alive. That's being most authentically me in my element, really makes me feel the most alive.
Oh yeah. And then I love that, soaking it up, when you get to be that present and being like, I'm alive, I'm grateful, all the good stuff is flowing to me. Claire, thank you so much for doing this and being the awesome human that you are, and sharing like in so many ways. We can never thank you enough.
No, I absolutely love coming on here, and I thank you guys for the space to be able to talk to other people and to share stories, because I think that's where we connect with other people, and that's where people can literally listen and stay and feel like just not alone. So thank you guys for doing this, and thank you guys for having me and giving me the space.
Claire,
thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Love you guys. Love you. And literally, thank you for doing this, you guys. Thank you for being there for young girls, and it just is changing lives.
it is.